Hello and welcome to Illumination Podcast with Nick and KISMA. I'm KISMA, and today is part one of a series called Why You Don't Have What You Want. Hello and welcome to Illumination Podcast with Nick and KISMA, bringing you ancient wisdom for modern day success so that you can have the mindset to get your life and business set.
As always, thank you for tuning in. And if you're new to the podcast, take a quick second to hit the subscribe button in iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher. If you want to get the inside info for this and every episode, as well as some free gifts, go to illuminationacademy.net/podcasts. And now let's dive in to get your mindset for your life and business set.
Well, hello there, Nick.
Hello, KISMA.
What's going on with you today, this week, this life, this cosmic universe? What's happening?
Everything, all at once.
Everything and nothing.
All at once.
It's all an illusion.
It is.
It's an illusion.
It's all an illusion.
That's a good way to look at why you don't have what you want. It's an illusion.
I'm not sure that's the healthiest way.
It is not. It's the checked out couple of pints of beer. It's all an illusion.
The super bliss bunny
The bliss bunny way.
What's happening? Orders happening.
Order. You're creating order.
I'm working at it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've definitely, truth be told, things have gotten a little messy in my world, and I'm putting it back in order.
Well, that's one way to acquire what it is you want.
But for me, it is. Yeah, it's really helpful. Mm-hmm. Keeps my brain working in the right way. It's really important for me. I know it's not everybody's like that, but for me, that's pretty important. So there's a little bit of fall cleaning going on.
Yeah, I did mine yesterday. I still have a drawer I'm thinking about.
Yeah. Oh, you're going to go back?
There's a junk drawer. It has to happen.
Which one?
It's that one in the kitchen.
Oh.
Yeah.
I know exactly the one you're talking about.
I get it, though. You don't get to do it. I get it.
It's all
Who
you.
Gets to clean the junk drawer? Look how exciting our lives are.
All you. No, I have some work in my drawers and closet to do later, and some things with books. Yeah.
Books. I know we have a lot of books.
Yeah. Well, I love the books. I really do. And they just I want to treat them as precious as I truly value them. And,
that's good.
Organize things. And so it really helps me. It's draining for me, for my brain and for myself when things are getting everywhere. And it's just been busyness, it just happens.
Yeah. And let me insert here for our listeners, when Nick talks about creating order, he's referencing something from the Ultimate Life Tool that both he and I are certified in. And many of our listeners have gone through this assessment. So if you haven't and you're interested, make sure you reach out to hello@illuminationpodcast.com. And Nick will send you more information on how to go through this really incredible personality beyond at a quantum level assessment. Really the best that I've ever seen. I don't even look at the other ones anymore.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. It's so powerful. It's the first thing anybody who works with me for a significant period of time, it's the first thing I have them do.
Right.
So we're talking about why you don't have what you want.
Well, the basic level, folks, here it goes. And just take a deep breath. If you don't have what you want, you're resisting it in some way, shape, or form.
I'm just going to let that one.
We're done. Bye.
You're resisting.
You're resisting. And, this is I think you've been listening. For our regular listeners, you've been listening enough to know where we're going with this. If you're new, just hang on, because when we understand why we don't have something, our dreams, our desires, etc., we get to shift it. It's when we don't know where we are, we don't know what we're doing, that keeps us spinning, right? So we want to understand why, maybe somebody wants a new job. Maybe those of you that are building businesses, you want to hit a certain financial place. Maybe some of you want a new relationship, or where are you resisting what you want? When you clear out the resistance, because we have this beautiful universe and substance that we pour into, when you clear out the resistance, that very thing or the opportunities show up for you to acquire that dream. Of course, we have to take action. This is not about sitting on the sofa and just thinking our way through life. We're physical beings, but the opportunities are there for us to create what we want.
Every day.
Every single day.
Every moment of every day.
Yeah.
That's the real truth of it. So we're going to break this down for everybody in 3 different episodes.
Yeah, it's just easier to receive the information, embody it, integrate it.
And to give you some time to really, between the episodes when they're released, you have some time to really take this into your life and play around with it. Now, and continually just asking yourself the question, where am I resisting? What am I resisting?
Yeah. And when you're honest with yourself, you're going to get some really amazing answers.
Yeah.
If you're in the need to be right that you're not resisting, you're never going to know.
Yeah.
So let it go and just be like one of my favorite people will say, well, what if I'm not right? Just what if?
Well, what if?
What if?
Well, resistance, I think, right off the bat can be really broad, right? It is a good question to ask yourself, but I think sometimes people can get confused around that. Like, they're like, I'm not resisting. No, I really want that thing, but I'm not resisting that because I really want it. And they get stuck in that part of the conversation. So in your experience, what do you see in general when a person's in resistance? And how do they describe that? Or how do you describe that? Like, what does that feel like?
Yes. So I will see it come up in different ways with clients or people that come to me at the beginning is there's a lot of noise in the head as to all the reasons things aren't working. There can be fatigue and exhaustion in the physical body, and there can be a heaviness in the emotional body. It's just like, the phrase of like, nothing's working. Or I don't get it. Why can't I have what I want? There's a lot of doubt in the human instead of excitement and energy and moving forward. Because the fact is, we can be on one of our most challenging, time-consuming, even like taking months or years project to create. And if we're not in resistance, we're in it. We're in the flow. We're excited. We're building. And if something doesn't work out, we pivot and we ask questions and we come back. If we're heavy and exhausted and fatigued, we're not allowing it in. Where it's like, I always use, when I go there, for me, it feels like I'm pushing a brick house up a hill. And it's like, it's so excruciating.
Yeah. And I think there's something to be said for that, for just staying in the game when you're having resistance. And I really do appreciate that. But one of the things that I hear a lot of people is like, man, I wish this was easier.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say necessarily that it's like, just magical thinking, poof, like you said, just sitting on the couch. But at the same time, it doesn't have to be as hard.
No, not at all.
As most people are making it, and that struggle and taking a long, long time for things to happen and kind of exhausting themselves along the way.
Right.
It doesn't need to be that. One of the biggest ones that I see and hear is the confusion. Like
yes.
you touched on that a little bit. It's like a lot of like a head full of thoughts and confusion and all this sort of stuff and all these reasons coming up about why it's not happening and the why, which we're going to get to that specific piece in the third a part of this series in depth, because that's actually a really big deal. But that's one of the most common ones I see. And then it feels like a big jumble in the head. And as you said, that's one of the big ones that I see. It's like exhaustion. Like, I didn't even know how I could, it's a big misunderstanding of like, it's already hard enough. And the misunderstanding is I have to do more to have more, and I can't do one more freaking thing, right?
Yeah. So then
my
there's all
time
the
is full,
frustration.
my energy's spent. Yeah. And then the frustration.
Well, there's an opposite way to look at it. When I reflect back to things that came to me easily and almost in a miraculous way, I had a sense of detachment or being unattached to the result. Yet there was always this kind of gratitude, praise, and ease and expectancy as well that things would work out. Like, I know when I was a musician, I always wanted a job. I was like, I know I'm going to get a job. Like, I just know it. And I went through a lot of like auditions and things like that. It wasn't easy, but somewhere I never gave up faith. I just never did it. And so when we reflect back to a time where I call it a sense of elevating above the world, where you're very intent on what you're bringing in, you're taking action. It's not that you're ungrounded, but you're kind of riding above the vision to guide it. That's when there's more ease. So there's less entanglement and more of I'm in it. I'm doing it. I have complete faith. It's possible. And this ride above in the energetic perspective.
Yeah. It's an elevated mindset.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Elevated mindset.
It really is an elevated mindset of like not getting caught up down in the weeds and all of it.
And I think when all of us go back to a time, and our listeners like reflect back to a time when something did work, what was your emotional nature? Probably in more ease. What kind of actions were you taking? They were likely more grounded and less chaotic. And what was your expectancy? Either you did expect it, or here's the really important piece, everyone. You didn't expect it to not happen. Because there's a difference between expecting it not to happen and being neutral. You can be neutral and acquire something. You can expect it to happen and definitely acquire it. But when you expect it to not happen, that's when you block it.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah.
That's the resistance.
That's definitely a resistance there. But the one that we really want to talk about today is making others wrong, or a variation on that is making situations wrong.
Yes.
So making wrong.
Making wrong. People love to make wrong.
Yeah. It happens all the time. So can you talk a little bit more about that? Like let's talk about the people for a second.
Yeah. At the foundational level, I look at it, this way. If there's something that you want, if there's a dream, if there's a goal, if there's an ideal that you want to realize, and somewhere in your life, you are making somebody who has realized that wrong, you're definitely creating resistance. It can look like, say there's a certain level you want to get in your business. Maybe you're looking for 6 figures, 7 figures. Heck, everyone's talking about 8 figures now. And you look over at somebody who's doing really well and you start to find things wrong with them. And somehow that soothes your ego. It's like, the only way they got this to happen, they did it the wrong way. The human is trying to justify why you don't have it and someone else does it. And it really, the foundation is ego. You can't handle that you don't have it. So you start to make someone else wrong for having it. And that creates so much resistance, because the opposite of that is really the law of supply. There's more than enough for everyone. If they can do it, I can do it too. Might be in my own way. It might be a different iteration, but isn't that amazing? So you actually want to send out the energy of awesome, way to go, and then get back in line with what you want. But making somebody wrong, if somebody's wanting more money and then they look at wealthy people and say things like, oh, they're so stuck up. Oh, they're this and that. Don't do that. Just don't do that. Focus on you. If you want a better relationship and then you find yourself either jealous on someone else's relationship or not wanting to believe, say you see this couple and they look super happy, or you know them and you don't want to believe that it can actually be so. And so you find things wrong on them, you're blocking your own love and connectedness.
Yeah. Well, that's a really good one. And I'd like to take that in a much broader perspective. Like when we look at our country and the division that we see, right? The division that we see around politics and ideologies and all these sorts of things, because it really speaks directly to this. And it's something that we can all flip on a news channel or read an article at any moment and see this in motion and see the results of it, right? So you can all you have to do is look for it, because what are they doing, right? In the broadest way. I'm not saying that individuals are doing this, but I'm saying in the broad way, the red side is making the blue side all wrong, and the blue side is making the red side all wrong. Everybody's against the other guy, and nobody's having a real conversation, right? So it's all about, the whole platforms are based on making the other wrong.
Completely.
And so you see that play out in all this animosity. And I think, just not to get way off topic here, but I think obviously the reason it sells is because it's interesting to watch these, people be conflicted. For me, it's just really annoying. But for a lot of people are engaged by that because there's drama around it and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, nobody's getting what they want.
And nothing's really being solved or resolved.
That's right. Right. Everybody says they want higher ground. They want us to come together for healing. They want this change, these changes to be happening in our society and our culture, yet they're going about it by making everyone else wrong.
Yeah.
And when you look at that, like, okay, you can see it in the broad perspective. And personally speaking, I think it's really dangerous to paint people in a broad perspective, because all of a sudden now you're not looking at the individual. You're not meeting any individual. And all we're ever really doing is having conversations with individuals, like real people out there, real human beings who have wants and desires. But we want to, and feelings and when we make them wrong, we shut down conversation and we shut down the ability to create something. And when it comes to getting what you want, so maybe it's a higher income, maybe it is love and connection to your relationship, maybe it's healing. That's one that I work with a ton, physical healing. And when you're in that conversation of making others wrong, it just shuts down the whole flow. And nobody's getting what they want without somebody else.
Right.
That's a big part that gets missed, right? Is because you always need people. You always need people along the path.
Yeah.
Friends, supporters, collaborations, all those kinds of things.
Yeah. So that energy goes out there and it gets really sticky.
I think an important variation of this is making the situations wrong.
Yeah. What's an example on that one?
Well, that is saying that I haven't got what I want, and I've been trying really hard, and it's because of this and this and this, and it's wrong that I'm in this place. So they'll see the situation that they're in. So say money's a great example, right? Somebody's just doesn't have the money or the income that they want. And then they make it wrong, and they make themselves wrong and the situation wrong that they're even there to begin with.
Right.
And that just, again, it just shuts down everything.
It does. And the other thing that can happen is if you're looking for something, or again, whether it's acquiring something, whether it's a new relationship, whether it's a new job or a move, the way this can go down is like, say you go for a job and you don't get it. And all of a sudden you're making the company wrong or you're making the city wrong. Yeah. Like it just wasn't your gig. There's another place for you that's even better. So the moment, and I think that a lot of people don't understand how sensitive it is when we throw out wrongness to the world, because the wrongness is going to come back, right? It's just going to congest your field. So this is not saying you have to like every situation or every person at all. Just don't take it on by making it wrong. Don't make it sticky by making it wrong. Just be like, not my gig. Yes, the good, bad, right, or wrong. Sometimes there's assessments and, you're doing that. But I'm just talking from an emotional level to kind of lift yourself up. Oh, wow, it wasn't mine because they do X, Y, and Z. Just release it. Let it go.
Yeah. Oh, and if you think about that energetically, like it's impossible to do that to somebody else without getting that all over you.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely impossible.
It comes right back. It's coming out of you. So it's already in your field. And then as you put it out, it's going to come back karmically in some way, shape, or form. So you've got a double stickiness that is resistance and congestion.
Yeah. And that's why they say it's like a seed, right? It starts out and it's a 1-for-1 kind of situation. But as that circles back to you, it's 10 times, right, 100 times or more. It's particularly depending on how much and how intense that you've put that out there. So it comes back to really watching ourselves and watching our thoughts. And what are some of your favorite tips around this? Like just to help people in a really practical, everyday kind of way.
Absolutely. Here's the thing. We do get very set on the right and the wrong in our society here anyways, like right, wrong. Because as soon as someone says a wrong, there's a right. We do not have to agree, but we can be neutral. We can get to a neutral place where it's like, okay, it didn't work out, or I don't have to like it. I don't have to not like it, but I can be neutral. I can be dropped back into my desires and dreams and wants. So we've got to come back to self and reorganize the thoughts and just be okay with, all right, didn't work out, without a lot of charge to it. And of course, we always say this, one of those quick pivots is going to be gratitude for what is working, gratitude for what is there, gratitude for the process. I mean, if there's a problem, there's a better solution. If there's a challenge, you get to build resiliency, like really taking ownership always of the journey, taking ownership of, okay, why did I resist that? What in me needs to make something else wrong? Get to that piece and let it go.
Yeah, I've been really huge on the truth telling lately.
Truth telling is important.
Yeah. It's just something like honesty, right? Like honesty with yourself and honesty with other people in a helpful way, not a destructive way. But the truth telling is such a big deal. Like it's so incredibly humbling.
Right.
When we really and truly look at ourselves and have that willingness to say, oh yeah, I am totally making all of this wrong. Like, look at what my head is doing around this. And just take a step back and say, wow, like, look at that whole dog and pony show. That's fascinating. And it shows, I mean, in a certain way, it shows our vulnerabilities.
Right.
To say like, ooh, yeah, like I totally did that. And I better clean that up. I love the way that you put that. Another one that I like to use is, a little blessing for them.
Yeah.
Like, man, wow, I just caught myself dumping all over, somebody who's doing something that I want, or achieved something that I would like to accomplish. And I just dumped all over that.
Yeah.
Like, wow, blessings, like you go, like way to go. And may you have everything that you want and more.
You hear us a lot talk about music and the performing arts just from our background. You'll notice I feel like all of the musicians, actors, performers, athletes that I've had contact with through my work, when someone can recognize the excellence in another, they can more easily recognize it in themselves. And it is such a higher way of functioning when you simply go, wow, look at that person. That's incredible. Because it becomes inspiration rather than detrimental competition. And when you're in that detrimental competitive mindset, you're heavy. You're not in flow. You're not in ease. You're like fighting the fight.
Yeah.
So do everything to the best of your ability. That's the biggest pivot too, is do to the best of your ability. Recognize through inspiration others or situations or experiences that are as well, and get back to yourself.
Yeah. Excellence. Like it really does come down to just choosing excellence for yourself as well. And excellence in your thoughts, like real purity in your thoughts and thoughts and emotions around things.
Yep. So I have a simple illumination insight for this episode. Would you like to hear it?
I'd love to hear it.
Very simple. You'll never get more as long as you make others wrong for having. You'll never get more. You'll never be more as long as you're making others wrong for having or being a certain way.
It reminds me of one of the things that Swamiji constantly says in the Vedanta teachings. He's like, you're always perfectly placed.
Oh, that's a good one.
You're always perfectly placed.
Oh, you had to just drop that after my insight. So much better.
No, your insight's way more like...
I just made him wrong. You're always perfectly placed.
You're always perfectly placed because he takes it. It's so hard to think that because you're like, I'm not perfectly placed. I don't have what I want, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever that is.
You're perfectly placed to see it, to see the next step.
That's right. To see the next step. Yeah.
That's good.
And that's something that we're going to unfold in some future episodes as well.
Cool beats.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thanks for being here. Illumination Podcast with Nick and KISMA. Please feel free to share this episode. Give us a review or rating for all that 100 top Apple podcast stuff that's going on out there. Awesome. But more importantly than anything else, we completely appreciate you, love you, and are totally inspired by you. So thank you for listening.
Namaste.
Peace. Hey, thanks for jamming with us today. And if you enjoy Illumination Podcast, please go ahead and share it with someone you love. Give us a rating, review, download our podcast. And remember, you can find us at illuminationacademy.net/podcasts. Talk to you soon. Namaste.